Let's have more insight into these. I have global affairs analyst Calvin Dark joining me on the news to discuss this. Calvin, what do you make of these, back and forth on whether the two-ballot mail-in voting system would be appropriate for the U.S. election?
Well, the first thing I want to say, and it's unfortunate that y'all have to say this every time here in the United States, but mail-in voting and voting in general in this country is very safe, and there is no evidence of widespread fraud, despite what the president says and tweets multiple times each day. The second thing is, when it comes to what you were talking about happening in Pennsylvania and other concerns, those are legitimate. Not from a partisan standpoint, but just from making sure that our local elections officials have what they need to do what they need to do so that we have confidence in the vote count. And if the president was actually interested in that, then he would push for those local elections boards and those state level elections authorities to have the resources they need. He wouldn't try to strangle the U.S. Postal Service to stop them from doing what they need to do to secure mail-in ballots. But that's not what he's interested in, because he's already said if he doesn't win this election, then it's not legitimate.
Well, one official in the state has won the ruling could lead to confusion and the disenfranchisement of more than 100,000 voters in the crucial battleground state. Do you share the same sentiments?
I do think that, when they were giving the description of the secrecy envelope versus the naked ballot, I do think those are serious issues. Not from, like I said, a partisan standpoint. I don't even think about whether that's going to benefit one candidate or the other. I do think that officials in Pennsylvania and anywhere else where this is an issue, they need to balance between what measures help us know that the ballot is valid and authentic versus what makes this overly complicated for people who might, with the best of intentions, not present their ballot in a way and it's not cast. And I think that that's what the decision needs to be, not, as Donald Trump was saying, that it's just Democrats trying to steal an election.
Well, Democrats are fine with the mail-in ballots, especially, because they believe it's safe at this time of the pandemic. But Republicans don't really want something like this. Do you think that is what is really needed at these extraordinary times?
Yes, I think it is definitely needed, and I actually think that if anybody has any doubt, we have several states in this country that have been doing all mail-in voting. I can say this, just to let you know from a personal standpoint, when I voted last week and I requested my mail-in ballot for my home state, it would be very hard to be fraudulent. It's not, as President Trump said, pets and cats and dogs getting ballots and sending them in. It's actually pretty secure, especially with the information I had to give. So I think we need to have an honest conversation about what mail-in balloting is about and why we're doing it, because we are in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, Donald Trump in recent days has refused to commit to a peaceful transfer of power if he loses the election to Democrat Joe Biden, and has said he expects the Supreme Court will have to declare a winner. Do you think President Trump is afraid of losing this election if mail-in voting is adopted?
Well, first of all, with the president's comments, I actually do not care whether or not President Trump feels he needs to leave on January 20th if the Constitution says he needs to because he lost an election. I don't think anybody cares what Donald Trump's personal feelings about that are. I do think what we need to be careful about is not what he says or doesn't say, but that we make sure the checks and balances that we have in this country are doing what they need to do. And by doing what they need to do, I'm speaking of Republicans, particularly in the Senate. Because if they demonstrate that they will uphold the Constitution, then Donald Trump can say whatever he wants to do. Now, I don't have much faith in the Republicans in the Senate that they would do that. Although the resolution that was unanimously passed this week, where they recommitted to that principle of a peaceful transition of power, was a positive gesture. Let's just hope they can follow it up by actions, calling President Trump or whoever may be in the White House to respect the Constitution, not what their personal belief is about what they should do over the next 4 years.
Of course, that is really very important. Well, have you spoken with some of the American publics, about what they rather prefer at this time? Whether it is mail-in voting system they want or just a regular election process that obtained in many years?
Well, I think too, on that question, one thing that I've noticed a lot of people doing that I don't think it's covered enough is a lot of people are requesting their mail-in ballots, but then they are delivering them to the elections places. So that means, they can make sure their ballot gets there, they can put it into a secure place, and they don't have to come in contact with another human being, because of the pandemic worries. And I've seen a lot of Americans who are doing that, and I encourage my fellow Americans that if they don't feel safe to go to the polls to vote in the traditional way, request a mail-in ballot. And if you can, hand deliver that ballot. And I think that Americans, we can know to vote. We don't need leaders who are discouraging us from using those options to vote out of fear because we are in a pandemic.
Well, Global Affairs analyst Gavin Dark will see how all of these things is going to pan out come November the 3rd election. Thank you so much for speaking with us on TVC News.
Thank you.